What? So you're telling me that nowadays when you get sick, that you don't get sick, that just when you go into that space, when you go into that quantum or that zero point energy field, that you can get rid of sickness?
Yeah, it's very hard for it to keep communicating in my pathway if I know that pathway is mine, right? And if I view it as okay, you're here to teach me, your information goes here. It doesn't go here between my brain and my body. So after spending years of correcting the processing of my lower neurotransmission, that's it. That's all I'm concerned about is the lower. Because peace, love, and everything else, I just have to feel it. But regularly acknowledging any lower neurotransmission and moving it back through the heart is what's going to keep disease from forming in your body. It's going to discharge it before it can really take seed or root. So during this time, I'm also having wild lucid dreams of being on ships, slick white suit, no hair. I'm completely bald, no hair on the body at all. And I'm in different areas. Each dream, different area of the ship. I'm seeing highly intelligent children. I'm seeing all these different things. And I'm in a medical bay in one, almost like a med bed type thing. And they're helping recircuit me so that certain types of energy can flow through me. Um, and it's all, guiding me back to the singular version of myself. And there's a multiverse at play, and they're talking about that. And giving me the words to, you need to call in all of your multidimensional energy, past, present, and future, into the moment of now through the Christ, tied together with a bow. You're not moving anywhere. So the Christ, to me, in researching deeper quantum physics in an effort to understand what the heck is happening to me, because it was harsh for a while trying to adjust to reality after having these experiences. I researched and I found singularity, event horizons, Casimir effect, and different things that were happening literally within my body on a quantum level. So that helped me understand it a little better on a technical perspective. But the experiences just continued and continued until I had to leave my job. The supernatural experiences, the visitations, the not being able to control my energy and my perception of reality. I started senior care. That's when I realized I'm working with Source. I'm working with my creator through all these people to rebuild my higher self. And so there was a lot of images out there of me that didn't really match who I was. And I think we go through that as people. Like a lot of people, they have an image of who people think they are, and then an image of how they see themselves and someone they want to be. I wanted to make them all one. And they were guiding me to do that, to not only create this singularity by taking any negative feedback or storage that's in my body, a cellular memory, acknowledging it and feeding it into the heart. This started a spin. And then they were guiding me to understand that I'm creating a singularity here, that this singularity can literally bind all information and energy and transform it. And then I'm free. I'm out of the matrix. That's my 0 point field, my 0 point energy.
Hi guys, I'm here with Stephen Noack, and I came across Stephen Noack in an interview. I was watching an interview of his on YouTube, and I found what he said very, very interesting, very enlightening. Stephen experienced an NDE at an early age. Stephen, do you want to, first of all, Stephen, welcome to the show. Very happy to be able to speak to you. And could you talk about that NDE? What happened at an early age? You were in a you were in a motor accident, I believe.
Yep, that's exactly correct. Thank you for having me on. Well, I was 4 years old and I was driving what's called a big wheel, but it's like a plastic tricycle that's like an inch off the ground. This was 1979. They probably weren't the best inventions. So I was across the street. Um, my brother was standing on the other side of the street and he was calling for me to come home. We were going to go to the mall, and instantly toys light up in my head. That was the mall in America. uh, so as soon as my brother calls to me, I just took off down the driveway from across the other side of the street in between two parked cars. And I didn't realize the car was coming, of course. So the car hit me, literally ran me over, and I went underneath the car. The wheels didn't go over me, luckily. I went underneath the car. The big wheel saved me from kind of getting run over because it got stuck. So I'm underneath the car and being dragged now because the woman didn't know she had hit me. She was drinking that day. So she continued on for probably another 50 feet until some onlookers that saw it stopped her. So what I remember is like a blur. And I remember going down the driveway, and then almost in like an instant, it goes from blur to looking at myself. And I'm above myself when I see my eyes roll in the back of my head. Next thing I know, everything just fades to black and then opens up again, like a movie, like an end of a movie. Fades to black, opens up again. And I'm sitting. I'm in like a sitting position, and I'm leaning to my side. And I'm leaning on someone. And so as I come to, my head is kind of on their chest, and I'm looking down, facing down anyway. I open my eyes, and the first thing I noticed was like hair, silverish type hair, almost silver, not really, more luminescent, and it's almost touching the ground. And I see like the bottom of a robe, almost look like a bathrobe, but a robe. And I think to myself, my first thought is, who is this? What happened? And I turned to ask this person who I thought was a person because I could feel him. I'm leaning on him. And I turned to ask him what happened. And it's just a hooded figure of light. They had no face, just light where their face should be. And so I'm like, ask him what happened. And I'm kind of pausing for a minute. And that's when they said, Stephen, you were in an accident. Put your head down. Everything's going to be all right. So I put my head down, and I'm just staring at this being in the face. And I remember just having a couple quick thoughts, like I just talked without talking, and just little things like that. But as I'm staring at this being's face, I feel myself being like pulled. And so I'm getting pulled and into this light that is like the hood, which is now almost like a tunnel. And so I'm going down and down deeper into the light, and then a scene just materializes in front of me, just comes into being. And it's a beautiful meadows upon meadows, and mountains and rivers and flowers and people in the distance. And I remember later reviewing, I'm like, I still have yet to see colors that vibrant or that alive here. And I really think that place is more alive than our reality. So I see these colors and these flowers, and I'm looking at them, and the colors are kind of moving through everything as if it's like their own beings. And I'm just looking around. I see a path that's kind of leading off into the distance. I see some silhouettes. There's people, and it looks like they're playing. It looks like they're having fun. I noticed these two in particular, kind of off to my left, and it's an old man and like what looks like the silhouette of a young girl. And they're in the distance, but somehow they're right next to me. And it's probably something I would experience very similar later on that I'll talk about, but somehow I'm feeling what they're feeling, kind of. And this girl lets out a laugh, and this laugh goes through the air, just floats, and touches me in the center. And it was like, whoa, all of a sudden I knew everything was one, and all came from love, and it would all go back to love. And this was the place that I came from. It was my home. And so at that moment, feeling that perfect love, I knew pain couldn't exist there. It wasn't that it didn't, it couldn't. It couldn't vibrate high enough. It had no function. Like it wouldn't even materialize. So I had that just ping in my system. And I wanted to stay. And that's when they said, it's not your time yet. We have other things to show you. And it was like somebody had grabbed this scene and just pulled it away like it was on a stage. They just pulled the curtain away, and I was standing in this kind of like darkish room. And I noticed it's like a night sky, but it wasn't pitch black. There were no stars. But then there were these lines that went up and down across each other, and they looked like grids. Now knowing that, at the time, I didn't know what was happening. I'm just looking at these lines going like this. And the being says this, this is the quantum field. Human beings build their reality in relationship with this field. And then that kind of faded away. It's like they're giving me the info for much later or something, right? So that fades away, and I'm at this time I could not intellectualize all that stuff, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm just looking, and that fades away, and then I see this kind of like structure, and it almost looks like a wheel. And in the center, I see this pillar of light, and I see these extensions going out to the screen that's surrounding it. And the being speaks and says, this is your original incarnation, this energy, how you came into this world, and then you spend your energy to have an experience with material reality. And these are the extensions going out into connect with the field so that you can interpret your experiences. And I'm like, okay. And I see these little, almost look like, I would say memories, but they look like little TV sets, little images placed all around in this screen. A lot of empty space still. Somewhere over here and somewhere over there. I had this innate sense of just knowing that it was data somehow. And then the being tells me that I'm energy that's going to play a character. And after they say that, this scene kind of fades, and I was almost like looking down in that scene. Now I'm standing, and approaching me is this triangle, and I notice it's kind of the same color as the lines that were going up and down. It's getting closer and closer. It's a little bit more bright, if you will, and there's dots on each tip, and there's one in the middle, and then that's when I think, what is this? And I'm answered, and the voice says, this is Heavenly Father, this is Divine Mother, and this is Holy Son. Make these three one. And I'm like, okay. And that changes. And I'm back to this night sky, and I see something like kind of off in the distance, or what I would perceive as distance to me. And it looks like, have you ever seen the motherboard on a computer?
Mm-hmm.
Looks just like that, except it's very small, and it's like the credit card size, and it's missing a corner. And it's up there, and then like, what is that? I have that thought, and that's when the voice speaks again, and they say, this is your divine blueprint. This is the image that you were made in, and that you will restore yourself to. And I'm like, okay. So that goes away. I wake up, I have toys. I have lots of toys. I'm asking what happened. And my parents are like, you're in an accident. And this was a few days later. I had, they had to restart my heart. I had collapsed lungs, broken ribs, broken shoulder blade, broken collarbone, bunch of stuff. Like I got dragged, so the side of my face was really messed up. So I wake up and ask what happened. Like that's my first question, what happened? And my parents tell me you were in an accident, and it just didn't feel right. So I remember being like, no, something happened. What happened? And never kind of getting to the gist of that. Around age 11, that's when I started to have the memories come back. And first it was sitting with the being, didn't know what we talked about. Then I would start to get more and more and more of it. And I tried to talk to like my parents about it and stuff, and whoever I could. And I realized how quickly it made me feel awkward and different on top of what I already felt from the experience, which I didn't know at the time. It was making me hypersensitive. I thought everybody felt emotions the same way I did, but no, it was different because of that experience. So, I kept it to myself for quite a few years, and many, many years passed, and that's when it started again. So I don't know if you want to ask any questions.
I'm just interested. What prompted the memories? You said they started coming at 11, age 11. What
Mhm.
prompted them to come at age 11?
I think it was probably puberty, to be honest
Hmm.
with you. It's
And
probably the start of puberty.
and how long did they continue for? Like, did they stop at age 14 or 15, or do you still get them nowadays?
Well, I get a lot different now. Not memories of the experience because I have them all now. So now it's more or less, higher information about the evolution of humanity and the things that I'm doing now from the experience. So I grew up pretty normal.
Mm.
I kept that to myself. I learned to hide it. I learned how to deal with being oversensitive or whatever it was. Unfortunately, I dealt with it in the wrong ways. I numbed myself with, I had a lot of pain in my body. I had car accidents after that, flipping a car over 4 times at 80 miles an hour, barely survived. People flew out of the car. Another miracle.
Did they
Crashing
survive?
motors. Yeah, they flew out of the car as it was rolling at 80 and they survived landing on
Whoa.
the grass. So there's many events like that leading up to me being in such physical pain and emotional pain that I was just painkillers just to function and go to work. And at this time, I was a store manager at a video game store, a well known video game store. So I was a store manager. I was miserable, had a lot of pain, a lot of darkness. My life was out of control and I didn't want to be here anymore. And so I'm set up for a routine surgery to clear scar tissue in my elbow from the years of sports. And I'm laying down, and I had just gotten there, just laid down. I hadn't had medication yet. So I had literally just got there, put my gown on, laid down, and then I got this feeling of panic and anxiety. And I had never panicked like that in my life. So I didn't know what it was. So I was like, I got to leave. And I just got up and I got ready to leave. And that's when I felt this energy start at my toes and just go all the way around my body and just encapsulate me with warm love. And that's the only way I could describe it. And I instantly sat back. It like sat me down and I went, everything's going to be all right. And that was it. Something released in me and it started all these visions. They were going so fast I couldn't see it. All these emotions. It was like somebody hit, like you had emotional storage in your body, and somebody just hit rewind, and I could feel them shooting through me, even though I'm not thinking about it. And so I start to have all these visions going real fast, can't keep up, emotions. I go through, have the surgery. It's a few days later, and I'm starting to notice things are different. I'm starting to see energies around me, which started as silhouettes, kind of like faintly, and then barely graduated into literally full figures. Some smoky, some light, some dark. Um, and it was the same way once they started verbal communication. And so now I was in this mess where I thought I was haunted. So I go to the doctor's office and I start yelling at him, like, what'd you do to me? And naturally, they didn't know what happened, and I looked crazy. I think that was all part of it. A few days later, I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, there's a ball of light in my room, like in the corner of my room. And I'm going through the motions of, is there a lamp there? No. Is it a reflection? No. Trying to cancel out things here so that I don't think I'm crazy. And so it moves a little bit, stays a while. I go back to sleep. Happens a few more times. Um, and then there's another experience that really jarred me. I was driving home, beating myself up, being really hard on myself. That was me at one time. I thought I was supposed to suffer. That was the family curse, supposedly. So I'm driving home, beating myself up, being really hard on myself, and that's when. Well, let me back up to the accident. So what happens during? I don't know if I mentioned this, but that's when the voice spoke to me again. Did I mention that part?
Mm-mm, no.
Okay. So as I'm having this panic, before I have the energy go around my feet, that's when I hear the voice again say, Steven, put your head down. Everything's going to be all right. And that's what kind of helped start that flood of emotion. So fast forward, starting to have some weird experiences. I don't know what's happening. And I recognized the voice at the time. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'm driving home one day, I'm being really hard on myself, and this voice starts like off to my right. I could place it, kind of feels like it's off to my right. And it starts telling me all the people I've helped and how many people love me and how beautiful I am and all this stuff. And I'm like, it's really strange because at the time, again, I'm dealing with these apparitions. I think I'm being haunted. They're speaking nasty things to me. And this is going on for a few weeks at the time. I wake up to what's around me. And this voice speaks to me, says all these beautiful things. And my first response is, "Who are you?" And the voice says, "I am." And I say, "Who are you?" "I am." And I go, literally, I say, "Yeah, I heard you the first time." And the second time, "I am who?" And then the voice says, "I am," one more time. And it was like something jolted me, like a reflex. And all of a sudden, all my memories just went flying through my head in reverse. It was every memory and emotion that I had ever felt in my life separately, but at the same time. I felt them separately, but at the same time. And I can't still
In,
can't
in the
fathom
space
that.
in the space of a few seconds,
Space of a few seconds. As soon as
in real time.
the third I am happened, I started bawling like a girl. And no offense, I didn't mean that. It's old 80s programming. I started crying as hard as I
Right.
ever did in my life. And I couldn't control it. And I had to pull over the car. And that was the visions, the emotions. And then after that experience, things got very different. That's when the Galactic Federation started showing up in my
Okay.
room.
Let me before I just ask you about that, the Galactic Federation. The thing that the thing that drew me to you was when I was listening to your interview, and you said two things that I could identify with. When you spoke about the guy with the robe, okay, the being of light with the robe, right, and
Mm-hmm.
also that energy you felt, because I had my own experience where I fell asleep one day and I was awoken by this. The last thing I remember is this electrical sound in my ear, right? Next minute, I was on the edge of a cliff and there was a guy standing beside me, and the guy was in a robe. Now I know what a dream is, and I know what a lucid dream is because
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced both. This was neither of them, right? The guy that was standing beside me, he was in a robe, right, a blue robe, and he didn't say anything to me, but he was trying to direct my attention to what was below the cliff, and what was below the cliff was a sea of gray clouds. All I can say is it was just this um, dense sea of gray clouds, right? That's what it was, just gray clouds everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What it means, I do not know. He did not give me any indication what it means. But there was a guy beside me in a blue robe. I couldn't have come up with that. I don't
No.
know. I don't know anybody in blue robes. Why was he wearing a
Yeah.
blue robe? I do not have a clue.
And then you see similarities around, right? And then okay, that was more than a dream.
Well, it was again, it was because I came out of it then, and when I came out of it, I knew it instantly what just happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't die or anything, but it was just such a strange thing to happen, and I've never had that happen to me before. Now, a few nights later, I woke up in bed, right? And I woke up in bed with this feeling of what you said. All I can say, it's a ball of warm energy, and it was in my
Mm-hmm.
chest. It was in here. And I haven't experienced that ever before either. It was just that night, and surprisingly enough, that was the night I actually said a prayer. I wasn't big into, but it was that night I went to sleep and I said a prayer, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I woke up in the middle of the night with that ball of energy. And when I heard you talking about the ball of energy and the guy in the robe, I could identify with that. What would you say? What happened there?
And the ball of energy just started to grow and grow and grow
Uh,
until it just took me over. And I'm trying to function and go to work, right?
mhm.
Trying to be normal. I'm not trying to uh, just start spontaneously laughing or spontaneously crying or spontaneous anything. I'm trying to keep at the seams. So suddenly, now I'm starting to pick up people's thoughts. So as this energy grew, it was almost like a receiver in a way, but I'm starting to hear people's thoughts, and I'm like, did I just hear that person's thought? Because I'm working, I have to ask them if they need a bag. I have to ask them certain questions, and I'm hearing it in my head, and I'm like, what's going on here? So let me test this out. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to ask them in my head, and then I'm going to ask them out loud and see if it matches. And it started to match. And then I was like, something's going on here. That slowly graduated into me being able to feel who was hungry around me. As crazy as that sounds, eat a full meal, full lunch, not even close to hungry. Somebody walk in, somebody come to work, bam, there's the signal. And so I was having a hard time functioning and going to work. Around that time, that's when I had a woman fall right outside my store, and I had witnessed it. So I was the first one to her, and she was in a lot of pain. She was moaning and groaning, and she was almost crying, but really hurting. She had hit the cement. She was about 80 years old. For some reason, I put my hand on her, and when I did that, I felt this warmth go just start at around my hand and go up my arm. And she turned to me, and it freaked me out. She turned to me and she goes, I'm all warm and I don't have any pain. And I was like, whoa. So I stayed there for a few more minutes. EMTs came. I went to work, and I couldn't rationalize it. I couldn't figure it out. And so that started my journey into like, okay, let's look into healing. But I was still going through some of that haunting stuff. So one night, I feel the entire pressure of the room change. I hear this voice speak to me, and they say, hello, we're Arcturians from the Galactic Federation, and we're here to help you upgrade your system because you're responsible for this grid that's maintaining the frequency of humanity's consciousness. And they showed me a picture of it in my mind. At this time, I had never heard of this stuff. Literally, never, not once. So they said, we're here to upgrade your system because you're responsible for this portion of the grid. And this is going to help humanity and its species evolve in the way they store and process information and data. And that was the gist of it at that first meeting. And then I was like, dude, you got to leave. I said, that's basically what I said. You got to go. Leave me alone. And they did. And they returned again. In between that time, I had time to look up to see if it was real. And I was starting to find information on it. And their voice was just perfect. It didn't drop off like human spirits or entities or anything we come across that doesn't have as strong of energy. And so when they returned the second time, they started to guide me to first focus on my thoughts, to match those with my feelings, and to speak to anything that didn't match, and to begin sending it through the heart space. Now, this was rewiring the feedback that I was creating by the misharmony of mind, heart, and body. When they came back, they spoke about the Trinity again. They told me that this was heaven, earth, and the sun. And these were also three aspects of myself that I needed to make one. And that they also represented past, present, and future. Past, present, and future. So the more I harmonically converged my mind with my heart and my heart with my body or truth, the less I was in the past and the less I was in the future.
How do you
with
do that?
fear. Practices, the words they gave me to basically acknowledge once, twice, 3 times a day, whatever it may be, the Trinity as one in the moment of now. So what I'm doing is I'm saying mind, heart, and body, you're one system. You work together with truth. So they also guided me to begin reconnecting to my divine blueprint, the image of creator that I was made in, and told me that I already had my identity. I didn't come here to get it. I came here to share it. And so there was kind of like a weaning off of characters that I was supposed to play to this character that I wanted to be, and this divine blueprint. So I had to be aware of what I was creating as feedback. And they told me, you're having a love story with creation itself, moment to moment. It's not about anybody else. It's moment to moment, wherever you are, no matter who's around, you're having a relationship with the energy of love, a standalone energy of love. And that is your identity. And when you move from that relationship and that accountability, you're going to have a hard time seeing yourself in the world and become disconnected. So they started to guide me to the Trinity, to learn how to rewire my system and the energy we create, as well as teaching me about the cellular memory and the programs that we store in our body and kind of what to do with them, how to discharge them, the neuroscience behind it, what happens in the body when I harmonically converge my thoughts with my feelings and my feelings with truth or gnosis, knowing. So they were guiding me to work with knowing and gnosis, and I got really connected into Jesus and like his teachings and love and learning about that as my identity. And they were telling me along the way that you're in the quantum holographic reality. You're in a quantum theater and you're an energy playing a character. So you don't want any attachment to any characters or things you're doing while you're here. So they're kind of guiding me along as I'm going. Slowly, as they began to help me, the pain in my body went, boom, it was gone as my frequency changed. And they informed me, you're a divine instrument. You're just a little out of tune. And as I tuned myself into the right frequency, there went my pain and all these mysterious ailments nobody could find. They just couldn't communicate in my body anymore. They couldn't function, a lot like that space that I went to when I was 4, and hate or pain couldn't function there. So I realized there was something happening. This started a lot of dreams, lucid dreams.
What? So you're telling me that nowadays when you get sick, that you don't get sick, that just when you go into that space, when you go into that quantum or that 0 point energy field, that you can get rid of sickness?
Yeah, it's very hard for it to keep communicating in my pathway if I know that pathway is mine, right? And if I view it as okay, you're here to teach me, your information goes here. It doesn't go here between my brain and my body. So after spending years of correcting the processing of my lower neurotransmission, that's it. That's all I'm concerned about is the lower. Because peace, love, and everything else, I just have to feel it. But regularly acknowledging any lower neurotransmission and moving it back through the heart is what's going to keep disease from forming in your body. It's going to discharge it before it can really take seed or root. So during this time, I'm also having wild lucid dreams of being on ships, slick white suit, no hair. I'm completely bald, no hair on the body at all. And I'm in different areas. Each dream, different area of the ship. I'm seeing highly intelligent children. I'm seeing all these different things. And I'm in a medical bay in one, almost like a med bed type thing. And they're helping recircuit me so that certain types of energy can flow through me. And it's all, guiding me back to the singular version of myself. And there's a multiverse at play, and they're talking about that. And giving me the words to, you need to call in all of your multidimensional energy, past, present, and future, into the moment of now through the Christ, tied together with a bow. You're not moving anywhere. So the Christ, to me, in researching deeper quantum physics in an effort to understand what the heck is happening to me, because it was harsh for a while trying to adjust to reality after having these experiences. I researched and I found singularity, event horizons, Casimir effect, and different things that were happening literally within my body on a quantum level. So that helped me understand it a little better on a technical perspective. But the experiences just continued and continued until I had to leave my job. The supernatural experiences, the visitations, the not being able to control my energy and my perception of reality. I started senior care. That's when I realized I'm working with source. I'm working with my creator through all these people to rebuild my higher self. And so there was a lot of images out there of me that didn't really match who I was. And I think we go through that as people. Like a lot of people, they have an image of who people think they are, and then an image of how they see themselves and someone they want to be. I wanted to make them all one. And they were guiding me to do that, to not only create this singularity by taking any negative feedback or storage that's in my body, a cellular memory, acknowledging it and feeding it into the heart. This started a spin. And then they were guiding me to understand that I'm creating a singularity here, that this singularity can literally bind all information and energy and transform it. And then I'm free. I'm out of the matrix. That's my 0 point field, my 0 point energy. And they showed me that a lot of people are, everybody's bipolar, let's face it. We're in a system of duality, right? But we can't control this heavy, light, ups and downs, because we don't have a stronger ground than what's trying to ground us out of our body. And so when I start to create that stronger ground between mind, heart, body, little subconscious reprogramming, like I'm the one that needs to tell, or we are, our younger selves, that you're already safe, you're already whole, and start to build a different image. So they were guiding me to really bring my higher self kind of back online. And then I slowly got people coming to me. They said, "Oh, maybe you can help me." And then it snowballed from there. And I went deep into, quantum entanglement, and then figured out that we can do this wherever we are with each other if we connect through that one energy. And a lot of my journey was about forgiveness, not only forgiving myself, but forgiving anyone I ever shared time with. And I knew I would never be able to go meet them all again and see them all, but I could do it through the Christ. And so I started to work there regularly. I gave you gratitude, love, and forgiveness through the Christ, through that singularity of love. Whatever it may be, I understood fundamentally they were all connected to it. And that had to do with some visions I had earlier, what they were teaching me. There was another really jarring moment where I was sitting outside, and I'm still at the game store at this time, and all of a sudden I get lifted out of my body, and these beings calling themselves the Sidriel speak to me. And then that's when they speak to me really about the programming and how to program, and that I am the programmer of my experience. And they start to give me a lot of different information, quantumly, that I would research later. And that was jarring because I lifted straight up out of my body and I had no pain. And then I sank back down into my body, and I was like, son of a gun. Now I'm in pain again. But what it did was it highlighted a gap that I needed to cross. And it was an identity, really. So I've seen a ton of miracles, literally, through people connecting to gnosis, the feeling of knowing, and their divine blueprint, and themselves being already whole. And they were teaching me to learn how to communicate to my body that something already is, and allow your body to accept that, and reality will change. So lots of different things, not only about healing the body, but about quantum leaping and building enough energy in myself so that I can quantum leap out of that reality into another one. And when I did, nobody recognized me. And so that came in finding your tribe, awakening, trusting whoever loves you will be around when you go through a process of rebirth and walking through your shadow. But I needed a place to put my shadow, right? I needed something strong enough to process what it was trying to tell me. Only happened through the heart.
Stephen, I was looking up at the screen there, Dora, I'm going to edit this bit out, but I'm on the Zoom and it's saying it's going to extend in a minute. So if I get cut off, I'm just going to I'm going to send you another link, but it should be okay because I've got it on extend here. I'm
Sure.
looking up at the screen. So if it cuts off, I'll resend you another link because I changed my plan on Zoom. I'm gone from paying the 20 euros to the 8 euros. So, and I don't know how
I
this
don't blame
works.
you, man.
Yeah.
Whenever I get too many videos on there, they want to rake me over the coals.
Yeah. So
Like you go over storage and they hit you a lot.
yeah. So I don't know what this is. well, actually, just hang on there now 30 seconds and it's going to tell me now how it's going to extend. I don't know. I've never seen this part before. Great. I'm listening to you though. I was going to ask you, I was just about to get into what is your conception of Christ and so
Mhm.
that's what I'm going to be asking you about now
Sure.
in about 18 seconds. And you come from an addictive background.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm 20 years sober and I'm 18 years clean. So it's one day at a time, of course. But
Yeah, absolutely. I realize, man, I'm like, damn, if I touch that stove enough, it's going to be hot every time I touch it, and it's going to change my reality. But yeah,
yeah.
in my family line, you
Okay,
know.
sorry, I'm going to get it. So, do you mind if I ask you, go into some of your
Yeah, go
addiction?
ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so it's extending for another 40 minutes, which is great. So, okay, so fantastic. Um, okay, Steve. So, Steve, what's your conception of the Christ? What does Christ mean to you?
Christ, really, to me, is where everything came from and everything's going to return to. And to me, Jesus became the master teacher of it that I gravitated to, and who I was really looking at as an example of how to embody that type of energy and how to be that type of identity, where I had no attachment to this place. Um, it's the embodiment of universal love, within me, that exists in all times and all places, quantumly superpositioned, waiting for us to align with it.
So, do you think his greatest message was about love and, as you said, forgiveness? Is that why you gravitate towards those two areas?
I say definitely love and forgiveness, but I believe the rebellion was also just as important because there's a firmness there. And it's a lot like when I work with clients and I'm connecting with them over vast distances and I'm speaking to their system. I'm sending them photons encoded with information to help correct the flow in their circuits. What I'm sending is gratitude, love, and forgiveness, and then firmness when it's concerning the identity. And so there's an uninstall and a reinstall factor there because we've given a lot of our identity away to our trauma, to our ailments, and things like that. And so I don't know, the rest of that left my mind, but if you want to ask something else.
So when you say that when you're reprogramming and you're getting, I guess, an update or a download, what about the malware? What about the viruses? What about like what is a demon? What's your idea of a demon?
Well, I'll tell you right now, Christ is the antivirus for this quantum holographic system that we're in, where we're energy playing characters, right? So to me, and I didn't understand this right away because, yeah, I've had plenty of exorcism, demonic cases where I'm yelling at the demon and they're yelling at me. I understood it much differently when I started to dive deeper into the quantum and understood that there were images of us literally caught in our cellular memory that were stuck in our subconscious that were being hijacked by, yes, some interdimensional beings, but these interdimensional beings weren't solely out to just punish you. They simply wanted to experience something. And so when it became more technical, if I get this negative charge out of me, there is no link for anything. Then it was much easier to deal with than yelling at a demon. And so I believe there's archons harvesting quantum energy. There's beings harvesting quantum energy for their potential. And that's why it's so hard for people to cultivate and expand without getting zeroed out before long.
Mhm. So let's say on a normal day you get angry or you get very upset.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is happening there?
It's feedback. There's some misalignment between my mind, heart, body, and truth, accepting reality, whatever it may be. I witness any lower emotional scale response from my system as feedback. It's information. You're here to teach me. Thank you. You can only teach me through my heart. My brain's not going to understand this message alone. It's going to make me mad if it stays there. That information, that energy needs to move through the heart, and then I will listen to you. So I've gotten to the point where I understand where that road's going to lead me, and I will only listen to what you have to say once you've gone through this light.
Mhm.
And so by dealing with my system that way, out of the addictions, off the painkillers that I needed for all these major injuries, I take nothing now. I don't even take ibuprofen because I'm in a frequency that makes it very hard for these lower resonating uh, functions to continue. My will is stronger than yours, put it that way, and my belief and faith in Christ.
Mhm. What is prayer to you? Is it like meditation? Is it what does that like how often do you pray? How often do you connect, or what word do you use for prayer or meditation?
Well, I always try to stay fresh with truth and what that feels like in my body. So, what I mean by that is, if anybody watches this, just ask yourself a question. Do I know how to tie my shoes? See what that feels like. Do I know how to drive a car? Do I know how to make a bowl of cereal? There's a sensation that I'm looking for when I'm praying, when I'm giving thanks, when I'm giving love. I'm always looking for what's behind my words. So, like in the morning, I'll call in the Trinity because I know if I harmonize my mind, heart, and body, it's a lot easier to kind of stay out of the heavier spaces throughout the day, stay out of that feedback, if you will. So I'll wake up, call in the Trinity. I'll give gratitude. And in the morning, when I give gratitude, sometimes it's hard for us as people to just I thank you for my family and to feel it. So I'll start in a non personal aspect. I really try to make it non personal. So thank you to that tree for giving me oxygen. Thank you to the sun. Thank you to God. Thank you to my guides. Thank you to Holy Spirit. I'm looking for something non personal to plug into. What am I doing? I'm trying to harmonize my mind and my heart even more. I'm trying to solidify it. To me, it's no different now than syncing up my headset to my phone, just syncing up in the morning with gratitude. And then I'm going to say, thank you to Creator for already making me whole. Thank you for already validating me. Now I got a firm foundation. It's going to be a lot harder to push me out of my character throughout the day if you're an emotion of my own or someone else's, because I'm stacking this information in my system. Prayer all the time when somebody needs it, I definitely jump into it. But I try to give it in a way that my body feels like something has already happened. And that's why when I communicate to Creator and I say thank you for already making me whole, I want my body to hear thank you and already, because it's more likely to accept that and go around the logic brain and get it deeper into my body. So I really try to focus on the giving thanks to Creator for already healing me and using my mental energy that way.
Mhm. That's like having faith. I guess it's having faith in your prayers being answered straight away.
Yeah, and it's no different than the signal that I feel when I think about, do I know how to tie my shoe?
Mhm.
Same signal, you're just looking to mimic it when it's concerning your identity or your healing. Because that means my thought traveled all the way through my body, ping, and now I'm starting to magnetize. That's why it feels like I know something, because my thought finished.
When you were in active addiction, what kind of a guy were you? Where were you? And like, what was your, how do you look at yourself back then?
I didn't think I would live until I was 50. So um, I went hard, and it wasn't into like real hard drugs, but it was the prescription drugs they gave me after surgeries. They told me they were non addictive. Turns out now they're labeled as controlled substances. When they started me on them, they told me they were non addictive. It was a new product. So it was the prescription meds, alcohol, uh, marijuana, whatever I could get to escape. And what was I escaping? Feeling the truth of who I was. I would have to admit that to myself, right? I'd have to look at myself in the mirror. And I've never hurt anybody, never stole anybody, but I hurt a lot of, I would say, partners and relationships I was a shell of, you know, who I should have been as somebody that needs to stand for love, put it that way. Um, but yeah, I was a jerk. I judged the world. I judged myself. I hated everybody around me and thought everybody was to blame for my pain. You know,
What's our purpose here, Stephen?
our purpose is to experience this place and find our identity in it, understand how sacred it is, and that we're literally in the Garden of Eden. And to become and have that relationship with the energy of love, no matter who's around, if it's just you in the mirror, to do that and to find your identity.
Is that
Okay.
what is that what is that what Christ means when he says this, heaven is within you?
Yeah. And I believe heaven is definitely up here in my heart, right? So I don't want my identity down here feeling heavy. And so I believe our purpose is to not only learn how to travel between light and dark, but to understand that they're both one,
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm already loved, already whole. I came to experience being human. I'm supposed to feel these feelings.
Mm-hmm. When you sleep, Stephen, do you ever experience nightmares? Do you ever get the odd nightmare?
Yeah, the wild nightmares I get are like, aside from the lucid dreams, to release certain parts of myself where you're kind of tested with certain energies. Here, do you still want to date pretty women just because they're pretty? And I'm like, I really got no interest. Lucid dreams like that, where you've um, had your energy tied in the past, whatever it may be, through some false image of yourself. The nightmares, like I've been pursued through countries where they don't like you for your faith, and it could be various countries. And I'm literally feeling the fear as I'm trying to hide from authorities. I've had lucid dreams where I knew that I was inside someone in 1955 and that I was playing it out with them. And now this comes with a lot of wild stuff once I started to do the deep quantum work, where clients would call me and they would say I was meditating and you showed up in my meditation. I signed up for a session from you and you showed up in front of me, put your hand on me, and asked me why I wanted to work with you. And I have all this stuff written down and recorded, but it's like it's all tied together with some sort of job I have to do that's beyond my character, you know.
Steve, Stephen, how can an ordinary person tap into their divine blueprint? Like somebody who's watching this now and listening to you, how can they tap into it?
The very first thing you can do is start understanding that you're the one informing your nervous system that you are this, and continue to keep an eye on the feedback when you're acknowledging this within yourself. So you want to have that communication between your conscious and subconscious. I am my divine blueprint. I'm not my job. I'm not my name. I'm not these things I'm doing. Those are things that were given to me and things I'm doing. And so as you're informing yourself of your divine identity and you're starting to come back online in a way, you're going to get a little feedback. And that feedback's going to come up and you're going to say, thank you for what you're teaching me, but I'm already whole. And begin using your stubbornness on anything in your nervous system that's going to separate you from love. That's your target. It's not the long line at the grocery store. It's not the line of cars and traffic. It's any energy separating you from love, because it's seeking to separate you from your identity. Hence, you have no quantum leap into a beautiful reality.
What's a UAP? What's a UFO? You hear a lot nowadays about UAPs and UFOs. What are they?
I believe they're interdimensional light crafts that can travel through dimensions. And the reason why they can move the way they do is quantum locking. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but if you look it up, you can quantum position an object floating depending on the environment. If it's cooled down to a 0 point state, so I believe they're using 0 point energy to move not only their consciousness around, but I believe they inhabit material reality too. But I think a lot of the UFOs that we see that are like Physical crafts are not them.
Hmm. So the beings that you're in contact with from the Galactic Federation, do they travel in UFOs, UAPs?
Yeah, like the small ones, the real tic tac looking ones.
Hmm.
Sometimes, and sometimes just as light energy. And if you've ever heard of Chris Bledsoe, he wrote the
Yes,
UFO of
yes,
God.
I know him.
So
Yeah.
I spoke at an event like last summer, and he was the speaker right after me,
Hmm.
and he called in the the energy, and you were just flashing here, and then spoke about the Trinity and Holy Spirit and Holy Mother, and how they had something to do. And I knew this already with a circuit that gets completed, and so that's why I want to call them into one. But they're interdimensional to me.
Chris also speaks about every time the beings show up that he tests the spirits, that he has a belief in Christ as well, and that he
Mm-hmm.
always tests. Do you test the spirits, or do you just take them for what they say?
No, no, I don't take anything. I'm the biggest skeptic there's ever been, put it that way. I need to experience something a couple times in order to make it real for me. And I guess that's what makes my story kind of intriguing, is because I am that way. I was used to be normal. And so I'll test and test and test. And my first deep dive was to bind everything. I got the ancient lore, archangels, demonic princes, and I went for the deep dive where I wanted every aspect of myself to come to the surface because I didn't want to repeat what I was repeating.
Hmm.
So I'll test everything. I'll say, I could feel it. I could
Hmm.
feel whether they love or not, So that's usually my test, as if I say, thank you. Who are you? But what I will always do, no matter who I'm working with, what I'm asking is through the Christ,
Hmm.
because it's a singularity. And I know if you go there and you're not love, you're getting stuck and you're getting changed, in other words.
Yeah, sure. The I don't know how Chris does it himself. I know in the book of John it says you test them by saying, "Do you believe that Jesus came in the flesh?" And that, of course, in other scripture it says that there will be many Christs. Just I'm curious, have you ever been led down a wrong path with any of them, or has it been 100% positive? Has there ever been a case where you said, "Well, that didn't really work out the way I wanted it to"?
Oh yeah, of course. In the beginning, when you have all this new power running through your body, and you think you're the man, and then you realize it's really about breaking your ego. And I went through a twin flame experience that kind of helped me through that, where I was riding on ego a lot, and then it just boom, and then I realized, all right, time to have my relationship with God
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
keep that truth wherever I go. It's not so much about how people see me; it's about how Creator sees me.
mm-hmm. Well, Stephen, it's been absolutely great listening to you. I really enjoyed listening to you. Where can people find you, Stephen?
Sure. If you want to contact me, you can reach me through trinityquantumhealth.com, trinityquantumhealth.com. That's what I do full time now. Eventually I wound up having such great success with the guidance and the instructions given to me and working with people that now I do it full time.
Well, fantastic. I'll have all your links in the description, guys. Just go in the description and you'll see all Stephen's links. Stephen, thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.